Welcome to Guided, your weekly sanctuary where we blend the wisdom of the Enneagram with the art of intentional living. I'm your host, Evie, and you're so welcome here. Guided is all about helping you, the modern woman, find your flow in a world that's often all hustle and no heart. Whether you're navigating a career pivot, diving into creative pursuits, or just figuring out how to take better care of yourself, Guided is here to support you. This podcast is like a weekly chat with a good friend, one who's passionate about making your life feel good. At Guided, we believe in living with intention, fostering emotional well-being, and finding joy in the everyday. We tackle the big stuff like overthinking, setting boundaries, and avoiding burnout, all while keeping it real and relatable. Think of this as your go-to spot for practical tips, soulful conversations, and a reminder to break free from the grind. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's dive in. Thank you for choosing to make Guided a part of your weekly ritual. If you're ready to step into a life of intention and empowerment, then hit that subscribe button and let's get started. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Guided. I'm thrilled that you're here. If we've never met before, hi, my name is Evie. I'm your self-appointed online big sister, helping you step into the most aligned and expansive version of you. We are back today with a brand new guest episode. Yeah, that's right. We have Candice Michelle joining us for a really rich and nourishing, very Enneagram heavy conversation. If you don't know Candice, she's online, she's on Instagram, Candice Michelle Enneagram. She has some really fantastic takes, you guys. If you're into learning about the Enneagram, which you probably are if you're listening to this episode, if you're listening to this podcast, make sure you give Candice Michelle a follow. She's fantastic. This conversation is vulnerable, it's raw, it's powerful, it's beautiful. And if you are in your 20s, I think this conversation is going to blow your socks off. I think it'll blow your socks off, whatever your age. And I really hope you enjoy it. So without further ado, I am going to play our conversation. But you can find all of Candice's information linked in the show notes. And if you need anything else from her, I'm sure she won't mind if you reach out on Instagram. Enjoy the conversation, guys. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Guided. Guys, friends, pals, do I have a treat for you today? We are joined by none other than Candice Michelle. She's a big deal in the Enneagram world, you guys. She's a big deal in my world. And I am delighted to have the queen of the subtypes, the princess of reality TV, here with us today. I really believe that this conversation is going to be insightful, whatever your Enneagram type, wherever you are in your journey, because that's just who this girl is. She meets you where you're at and she calls you the F out. Welcome to Guided, Candice Michelle.
Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh. And I didn't even have to pay her that much to say all that.
I'm so delighted that you're here. Maybe you could begin by telling us, your Enneagram type, maybe your subtype stacking, and anything else that I've missed.
Oh, well, I'm Candice Michelle, like she said. I am an Enneagram 2. I am sexual dominant, social repressed. So I am maybe not the stereotype of a 2 that you've maybe heard of. I'm not really sure how the counter type became the stereotype, but that's a whole other conversation. I don't really know what else to say. I'm so bad about talking about myself. I'm sorry.
You're doing great. No, I think we met about 2 years ago, pretty much as soon as I launched. You were very, very kind and really, just kind of took me in under your wing, and you've been a really wonderful kind of support. And I want to say I don't want to put this pressure on it, but like a bit of a mentor. You've kind of walked and done a lot of stuff. You've been in the game a while, and that is really reflected in the depth of your work And yeah, I'm just so grateful that a couple of years ago, yeah, you reached out and yeah, you helped me find my feet in the Enneagram coaching world. So I'm so grateful that you're here. What a full circle moment. And we've got some juicy questions today. I had to juice it up because you were coming on the pod, hey?
Literally the best questions I've ever been asked. Literally the best questions I've ever been asked. And I just want to touch on that whole full circle moment, because when we first started talking, we did a little session exchange because I guess I'd been in the game, so to speak, for so long, but I was still finding my footing with, what my coaching style was going to be and how I was presenting to people. And when we had our talk, you sat me down, and the way that you talked to me about myself, about things that I already knew because I was doing it professionally, it actually had such a massive impact on how I've shifted my coaching to being a little more visually packed rather than me just kind of like sitting there. So thank you for that. I don't think I ever told you that.
No, that's amazing. That makes me want to cry, and I'm going to try not to because that we need less of, well, because I'm crying all the time, but crying is good.
Oh.
Sorry. Okay.
The cat moon doesn't let me do it.
Oh, well, I think let's start at the beginning. Where did it all start? Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to discover the Enneagram? I think everybody's journey is so different, and I think that's a really beautiful place to kind of jump in. Maybe you could tell us how you felt when you first heard that description of the Enneagram Type 2.
Well, I felt like the most validated person that had ever been alive. And I mean, I found Enneagram, it was back in 2018. So oh God, I guess it was 7 years ago, but it feels shorter. I was in a car accident a year ago next week. 7 years ago next week. Sorry, 7 years ago next week. And I basically was just sitting around. I was sitting around in my house doing a whole lot of nothing because I wasn't in a self-aware frame of mind to, use the time wisely or whatever. I was going through the trauma. I was going through all of this. And what I was really doing is I was trying to understand the relationship I had with my mom. It was very strained. We don't speak anymore. But it was very strained. And it was more me trying to figure out, why is she like this? Why? But I had zero intention of being a better person myself. I didn't look at it that way. It was really I need to deal with her. I need to deal with this. Yeah. And as I was going through that, I'm just scrolling and I'm switching up my algorithm and I'm trying to get personal development things in there, even though it wasn't personal development. It was me using it as a weapon. Let's be realistic here. I'm going to be honest. But the Enneagram crossed my Instagram, and it was like I was being seen, and it was, 7 years ago. So I find that the Enneagram community online has shifted a lot to a lot more depth rather than just fun memes, which again, memes have their place.
Yeah.
They absolutely do. But I do find that there's more there. So when I was just seeing Enneagram 2s love, Enneagram 2s are giving, Enneagram 2s are the most loving, I was like, yeah, I am. I'm the best. And it validated everything in good ways and not so good ways, but it validated me. And in that mind frame I was in, where I was ruminating on everything my mom had said to me over 30 plus years. And one thing that really stood out was, you are a different person online than you are in real life. And that always stuck with me. And what Enneagram did is it validated that wasn't true.
Can you say more about that?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I realized over the process of the last however many years that, I've been doing this work and doing this work with others, that I really grew up in my stress line. I wasn't growing up as a 2. I was in my heart. I've had that motivation. I wanted to be loved. But somewhere around age 9, things changed. And it became, I needed to survive. I needed to toughen up. So the way I see it, and I'm going to overlap astrology here, is that those closest to us, I find, see more of our moon sign, like more of our emotional side that we tend to hide from other people.
Yeah.
And as a Capricorn moon, I'm not really overly expressive with my emotions. I'm not a big crier. You might see me do it at like a commercial or like something like really random like that.
Yeah.
But if something really bad happens to me, my first reaction isn't to cry. So what my mom saw was a lot of like me pushing back with the Enneagram 8 stress line, trying to be tough, trying to protect myself, protect my younger brother. So in some ways she was right, because what she was seeing didn't line up, and she's a 4.
Okay.
So for her, it's the, oh God, you're being fake thing.
Totally. Yeah.
Right. So it was just that validation to me. Like, I wasn't faking it. I'm not lying to her. I'm not lying to the people online. It's just different people are going to experience me differently.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I think, that's what the Enneagram does so beautifully, and what you've demonstrated there so well, Candice, is that, the Enneagram has that dynamic stability, doesn't it? So I'm a 1 and you're a 2, and you've always been a 2 and I've always been a 1, but sometimes I come across really 7, and sometimes I come across really 4, and sometimes my 2 wing is really, really loud. And all of that is me. They're just the different parts of me, and different scenarios and moments are going to light those different parts of me up. But it doesn't change who I am at my core. It doesn't shift my motivation. Yeah, that was shared so beautifully. I thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you for asking.
You've recently shared that the Enneagram work is hard, but worth it. And I want to talk a little bit more about that. What was that moment when you really understood this for yourself, when you knew that was true?
I can't pinpoint it in like a personal sense, because since the accident and then COVID in the middle, like those 7 years are kind of blurry.
Totally.
They kind of all overlap, but it was when I found subtypes, because yes, the core type gives us a really broad sense of information, but it wasn't until I found the description of the autopilot patterns of sexual dominant 2s where I was like, oh, it was reading about the femme fatale kind of style of an Enneagram 2, like the one who's aggressively seductive, the one who's going to go after that person. Doesn't matter if they're with another person. Yeah. I want that person. Yeah. That person's mine. Like, all of that was me. It really was. It really was. And that it kind of is hard to look back on, but that's where the hard work started, where I was like, is this the person I really want to be? Like, not that sexual dominant 2s are bad, right? It's not that the autopilots are bad or the patterns are bad. It's that I just didn't have awareness of how my motivations and instincts were playing out, how they were affecting people, how they were affecting my life, how they were affecting my stress levels. So when I saw all that information, it was just the biggest aha moment in my life. It was like, oh, okay, this is why.
Yeah. And having that why just shifts everything, right? Because there's good and bad in everything. From the point of view of the Enneagram, your greatest strength is also your greatest weakness. It's just kind of how you're wielding that power, shall we say. And what I think what the Enneagram does really well, and what subtypes do really well, which we haven't dived into subtypes yet on this podcast. Obviously, your podcast is full of incredible information.
But it's getting there.
Totally. But what the Enneagram does is it kind of presents you with this information, and then you have a choice because you've got that awareness. And I think that's so huge. When I was kind of first discovering my subtype and learning about the sexual type 1 and how much they can look like type 8s and understanding where that's coming from, I then get to go, so all this shouting that I'm doing, perhaps there's a better way that isn't so dysregulating for my nervous system, And it's just, it just
Exactly.
gives us the choice. And I think that is, yes, so huge. Wherever we are at in our journey, wherever we're at in our self-development, you know, place in life, that having that opportunity to make a different decision, doesn't even have to be a better one, but just trying something different is so huge. Cool.
You just said, I think, the greatest thing that I want people to take. This is the name of my podcast, and I'm like, you guys take this with you. I'm so there's the assertiveness right there. I just hit my mic. I'm getting aggressive. A better one. It doesn't have to be a better one. I think we get so wrapped up in that, and I'm sure as a one, you get wrapped up in it way more than I do. Way more than I do. Yeah. But we get so wrapped up in, okay, what's the right next step? What do we do next? And then if that doesn't work, what's going to happen? And all of these things just start to go and go and go. But we can't get those answers until we've made a new decision. And we can't know if that decision is going to work for us until we try it. Yeah. So yeah, you nailed that. That was so good.
Thanks, mate. I think you set me up for it quite well. So let's talk a little bit then about the car accident, you know, if that feels okay. You mentioned that, yeah, about 7 years ago, you had a car accident, and you've shared that this forced you to confront yourself, you know, because of that time that it kind of gave you or forced you into. Can you share what shifted for you in that experience and how it changed your relationship with your Enneagram type? Because I think when we're talking about trauma, and we want to talk about that with so much softness, as much as two sexual dominant types can, we want to talk about that. I know, right? If you guys aren't watching the podcast, we're both staring at each other going, how are we going to do that?
We're two sexual types, so.
When we're talking about something as traumatic as, you know, a significant car accident, that wake up call really isn't a choice. That you know, that happened, and that is, you know, really, really difficult.
It was so difficult, and you're so right, because it wasn't a choice. Yeah. I never would have gone down this path. I might have seen Enneagram, but like I wouldn't have even been living where I was living had the car accident not happened and had all of these things not happened. So, and this is kind of interesting because I do have a hard time being kind to myself with the accident. Like, it wasn't my fault. I didn't T-bone me. I didn't send me flying to a park, but like I beat myself up for having needs, like needing that space to feel traumatized, like needing that space to need help. That is really hard for me as a 2. And I think that was a big part of the whole wake up call too, was how badly I wanted people to help me and how badly I wanted to not have to ask for it. But in my mind, it was like, I don't work anymore. I'm stuck on my couch. I don't drive anymore. How do you guys not see, you know, but it came down to it. I had to start asking myself the question, like, if all of these people that I've surrounded myself with my whole life aren't clamoring over themselves to help me, which I shouldn't expect them to do anyway, but if they're not doing it, why? Like, where's the common denominator? Who is it? It was me, right? And it wasn't that I was a mean person. It wasn't that I was a bad person. It's that I was moving through life without awareness. I was moving through it without just true awareness of how I was impacting people, and not how I was perceived, because I felt like I had high awareness of how I was perceived, because we're 2s. We think we're likable and people see us as friendly and helpful. But it wasn't until I was, you know, knocked off the pedestal I put myself on. You know, I had a really high level job. I had been promoted very quickly through multiple channels. I was traveling all over North America doing my work. I felt like I was just riding high. I felt like I was riding high, and then it took that accident for me to really look at myself and my personality, and again make that choice of who I am is who I want to be, but does that match what I'm choosing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did that answer? I don't know if that answered.
It's a fantastic answer. No, definitely. Okay. Definitely. And I think there's that, we kind of hit this point and, whether it be through a car accident, whether it be through, on my end, a chronic illness, whether it be through a significant failed relationship, whether it, whatever the path in is. And because I think, we probably all to some level can relate to getting to that point where we have to go, the choices I'm making are not supporting my highest good, my best self. Why am I making that choice? Could I make a different one? And I think sometimes it does take being put into a corner where there's kind of no other way out. We have this shared experience of being stuck on the couch. And that is hard. That is absolutely paralyzing. That's kind of how I describe that time. And to dig in rather than push away, I think is something really beautiful. And so I really honor you for that. Not everybody makes that choice. So I really, really honor you there. And I thank you for sharing, so well about something so hard. It's so hard to talk about painful things, and I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I haven't really shared the car accident stuff much.
Yeah.
I'll share a little why, because I think Enneagram 2s and others as well might relate to this. But while I was going through the process, I don't know how much your listeners might know the soul child theory, but it's about, your inner child essentially lines up with your growth line. That's the quickest way I can say it, to keep it on here.
Yeah.
And I find in my experience with working with people and myself is that tends to come out when you're at home, similar to like your moon sign does in astrology. So while I was at home and while I was sitting there, I was very, very four-like. I was very expressive. I was putting it all out there while I was simultaneously withdrawing. So I was sharing a lot, and I don't want to say I was actively pursuing like Instagram growth, but it was something that I was just kind of doing. It wasn't something I was doing as a job, but I was trying to grow, and I was trying to be like an influencer, and I'm sharing my life as influencers do. And I started getting messages from fake accounts about how I was lying, about how I was dramatizing everything, about how because I had started a GoFundMe, which I actually ended up closing because of this message, being like I was stealing money from people. And I just got I got so lost by that. And now I know, like, this is kind of hard to say, apparently. It's like my throat chakra is just like, no, you can't speak right now. I'm allowed to express my needs. And if someone thinks that I'm lying, just similar to, my mom back in the day saying I'm a different person online, whatever they think doesn't matter, because I know through Enneagram who I am, that how I'm showing up is correct, and correct for me, not correct for like the world. But
I think that's so important for type 2s to catch, right? Like the outsourcing of feelings to other people's is so prolific for the type 2 that then when they are confronted with their own emotions, it feels so foreign. It can feel like, is this even me? I'm not sure, because I hardly have any relationship with my own feelings because I'm used to caring about everybody else. So then when you're trying to engage with your own emotions and people are having a problem with that, I think it's so destabilizing for the type 2, because we're, type 2s are in the dependent stance. So I'm okay if you guys are okay. That's how I it's how I kind of plant my flag for my day, week, month, is based on the rest of the room. And I'm trying really hard this new thing to engage with my own feelings. And now people are calling me out on it. And I'm having a trouble even identifying that I feel sad, let alone, show it to people. And I think that's such an important moment for type 2s to catch if you're listening to this, or if you love a type 2. My mum's a type 2.
one of my best friends is a type 2. I'm surrounded by twos. If you love a type 2 or if you are a type 2, really encouraging them to own their feelings, to kind of take center stage with their feelings and to meet their own needs because they've understood that they've got their feelings is so key. And I think that really drives home the soul child theory, which I'm a huge fan of. We haven't talked about it on the podcast yet. I'm a huge fan of soul child theory, which basically says as a child you were your growth number, but because of certain things going on in life growing up, you had to become, your what is now your main type, or what would be your stress number if you had been your soul child number. It is wordy. It's a wordy one to explain quickly. But I totally see that. And yeah, I was going to ask you about your relationship with your type 4 because, of your mum being a type 4 and then obviously this experience being such a huge one. How is your relationship with your type 4 now? What does that look like?
I struggle with her. I do. Yeah. And I'm working on it because I know that as a 2, my defense mechanism, I'm going to repress things. I'm going to push it down and I'm going to reach out to other people. I'm going to be like, I'm going to have a conversation with you. I'm going to be friendly to this person and that will make me feel better and everything will go away. Yeah. So I'm just trying to remind myself that she's there. Remind myself that there's that inner child, or however we want to look at it, that just wants to be seen, wants to be heard, wants to be understood, but also just wants to create and wants to be imaginative and wants to see the world through this lens that even the mundane can be beautiful. So I'm trying really hard to slow down, and how I'm doing that is I have to be kind of hyper aware, but again, this comes with practice. So if you can't be hyper aware of something while it's happening, just don't worry. Things come with time. Yeah. But I need to be hyper aware of when I start to overthink about other people, when I start to question a relationship, or if someone might be talking behind my back, like in my Enneagram 8 stress line, or why haven't I seen someone in a week or something like that? All of these weird things that tell me that I actually don't know what they're telling me because I'm too busy repressing it. Yeah. So I'm giving myself the space to notice it and feel it without, this is going to sound kind of mean, but maybe that's just my 2 talking, but without making it someone else's problem. And I mean that in the kindest way, because I find with me, and other 2s might relate with this, is I will reach out to someone having the expectation that when I reach out to someone and share my feelings like a growing 2 does, that they're going to respond to me in a certain way. And then when they don't, I feel rejected. So it's a whole thing, but it's part of that good hard work where I now know that even if I'm not expressing certain feelings, that I am feeling them, and that's okay. And that also means that other people could be doing the same thing. And then that gives me the freedom to not feel as rejected because it's not about me.
Yeah. Wow. Huge. So huge for, that's such huge growth for the type 2. How many times can I say huge? But it is, it's monumental. When we think about, how prevalent rejection is for type 2s, you can't speak to a type 2 on any kind of level of depth without their rejection story coming up to the surface, in the same way that you can't speak to, a type 1 without their badness, their bad, streak story. We all have a different story. And for the type 2, it usually is rejection. Rejection is such a huge character in their life story. And I think that's amazing to be able to hold that space. I think that's wonderful. That really is the good hard work.
It's hard, friends. It really is. And it's not to say that it always works. Every time I try to feel the emotions, it doesn't mean I do. It's just realizing that, like everything in life, we have to learn and we grow through it. Whether you're learning to tie your shoes as a kid or you're learning how to notice things that come out of your voice when you don't mean them to. Regardless of what it is, it's a skill. So if we look at it in that kind of a neutral way as twos, we will feel less selfish. We're going to feel, less unworthy of love. We're not going to feel like we're not being likable because we're finally looking after ourselves.
Yeah. And can I ask a follow-up question? Just for type 2s listening, going, okay, cool that you're trying to feel your feelings, but I don't even notice them when they're there. How are you doing that? What is your way of doing that? How do you work with yourself with because repression is obviously so well hidden by the mind?
I do think it's repetition.
Yeah.
I think it's just the repetitive understanding of self. And again, it's kind of hard to, sorry, my cat wants to say hello. Hi. Are you okay?
Hi, kitty cat.
Are you good? This is Detective Charles Boyle, who is also an Enneagram 2 on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but that's neither here nor there. So it's that repetition, but I know we talked about my podcast, whatever week we did that, because I don't remember anymore. We talked about, so when we were on my podcast, we talked about how Enneagram is present and future focused. I do like to take a bit of the past in there just for reflection purposes, because that's what really sealed the deal for me in understanding how my patterns were playing out. So through the years of just reflecting on past moments and then equally diving into, subtypes more than anything and defense mechanisms and all of the patterns of my type, I started seeing patterns match up. And that's really what started happening. I started to be able to see like, oh, when I feel like this, I tend to do this, and this is how I feel after. It felt very clear, but it won't in the beginning.
Yeah.
So again, I think it's just reminding yourself that you're just starting, like you're only going to take in bits and pieces of information, and giving yourself the biggest celebration when you notice something, even if you notice something from like years ago, right? Even if you have that realization of, oh, that's what happened. Celebrating that. And then when you celebrate these epiphanies, they're going to happen more often because your brain is going to be looking for that validation from yourself, because more often than not, we're the ones slinging arrows at ourselves. So when we start wrapping ourselves in a giant hug and wrap our past in a giant hug and try to give us the understanding that we were probably seeking from everyone around us, then as time goes, this might not be the best answer for people to want to hear, but I do feel like you will actively notice yourself doing it because you'll just get in that cycle.
Yeah. Brilliant answer. And I think that's so key, isn't it? Often when we look back and realize what we were doing, we can go, oh, and I've been doing it for so long, and oh, I've always been like this. And it's like, if we can just catch that moment and not shroud it in negativity, but instead, apply that non-attachment theory that is so key in Enneagram work. Hey, here's a piece of information. What am I going to do with it? Rather than, hey, turns out I've been really crappy, shitty, rubbish at that. And it's probably always going to be like that because it's been going on for so long. And, if we can catch that moment and hold that space for ourselves, yeah, you're right. We then get to move forward quicker, better, faster, because our brain is looking for that safe space. Absolutely. What a fantastic answer.
Oh, thank you. And like, who doesn't want to be their own safe space, right? Like,
yeah.
Could you imagine just knowing that you're safe at home in yourself? And maybe this is my 2-ness coming out, and my 8 stress line, let's be realistic. When you're safe in yourself, you stop seeking that safety in others, and you stop being frustrated when they can't provide it. And it's just making your life easier in the long run.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Get that printed out somewhere. That is totally. Yeah, absolutely. Such a big one for type 2s. Okay. You recently described yourself as having been, and I'm speaking in inverted commas now, and if there are small ears around, protect them. You recently described yourself as being a raging twat. Your words, not mine. How do you see that version of yourself now, and what advice would you give to someone who's still stuck in their type's defense mechanism?
Oh, this is such a good question because it's something that I think about daily. We have Facebook memories popping up. We have, different things on Instagram where it's like, share a picture of you from like 2017 or whatever it is. All of those little things, they're kind of like I'm touching a cactus every time it happens. It's just like it's like a little sting because I was truly walking around thinking I was the most self-aware person on the planet. I really did. Like I remember a very specific performance review I had when I was working at Sephora forever ago. And I was like, yeah, I know I do that. I'm pretty self-aware. But like, I obviously wasn't, because if you have to bring it up in a performance review, if I'm continually doing it, what the actual
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, there's a lot. And there was something that you said earlier about the trauma and also like ending a significant relationship. 6 months before my accident, my fiance and I canceled our wedding.
Wow.
5 months before my accident, my 3-year-old dog had died unexpectedly. Like there was a lot going on. So it's just, the reason I wanted to bring that up is because I'm looking back even at how I acted with him, how I acted about the dog, how I acted about relationships since him. And I have this really weird push-pull inside where I desperately want people to know I changed, people to know that I finally saw what they were saying. Like, for example, my ex-fiance, he had told me a time or 12 that I was acting just like my mom all the time. And my perspective, living in my stress line, was to shove it right back at him because it couldn't be me. He's wrong. You're trying to bully me. You're trying to pull the wool over my eyes. You're trying to do this, this, and that. And now that I've done this work, it's just so hard to know that other people's memory of me isn't what exists now. And it's hard letting go of that control. I think that's the hardest thing. It's hard for me as a 2 to be like, hey, to not be able to do that, to not be able to like, hey, like all of those things you said to me, you were right. I'm sorry. Like I want to go and have these conversations. I want to clear the air. I want to do all of these things. But in reality, and if I was talking to someone I was coaching, I would be like, okay, but who are you doing that for? Are you doing it for them or are you doing it for you? So, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to know that. It's just hard to know all of that. So, I mean, if I could give you advice, because I don't know if anybody else out there has a hard time with their past self as hard as I do. Like I genuinely struggle looking at any pictures from even, I want to say 2020 earlier, and I was 35. So like 35 years of me and memories of me just like looking back and seeing someone, I see someone who is trying so hard to be loved. Like I see someone who's trying just every trick they have in their book.
Yeah.
It's not a full book, but they're trying every trick they have in their book to get attention, to be loved. And nothing that I was trying was working, right? Like nothing. And not only that, but that version of me, I was ignoring what my loved ones were saying. I was just flat out saying, no, this isn't true. This is not it. This isn't it. I would listen to them say how they were being impacted, and I would literally fluff it off. I'd be like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I'm the most likable person. What do you mean? Like, I do everything for you. All of that kind of the emotional manipulation side of Enneagram 2, I was the poster child, right? So if I could give you a piece of advice to anyone, it's that you're worth diving into. It's worth taking a second look at yourself and doing it from a place of love rather than a place from judging yourself. And it's hard, again, because it's an interesting place, I think, because I look back on that person. I look back on maybe 25-year-old Candice, and I look at her and I go, that person would have been uncoachable. She would not have listened. She would not have taken it in. She wouldn't have done anything with it. So if you're in that place now where you're like, everyone around me sucks, my life is horrible, like everything just keeps happening to me. If you're in that place like I was in for 35 years, just remind yourself that you're worth the time. And I know that might sound like they don't line up, like they don't make sense together. Like, why are you telling me that I'm worth the time when I know I'm worth everything? I'm just going to leave you with it. I genuinely just want you to sit in it, because it's truly worth understanding why you feel the way you do right now, why you feel so attacked by life, why you feel like you just can't get things off the ground, why you feel like you're unlovable, why cycles keep happening. And if you're in pain right now, you're in pain either way. You're in pain whether you sit in it or whether you look at it and give yourself the grace. No matter what, it's going to be painful. So like we mentioned before, it's the choice. You can choose to remain in that cycle and look back on yourself and be like, I hated that girl. I hated myself growing up. She did all these horrible things. I don't even want to look at it. You can choose that and choose to kind of sit in that pain, or you can choose the pain of uncomfortable truths and choose the pain of diving into the shadow side, so you can look back at your past self with less disdain and a way more understanding.
And I
My
think
cat's yelling at me, sorry.
And I think that really speaks to finding that sense of safety within yourself. You know, that really comes back to the safest person in the room always being you, because, you know, you're the expert on you. You've journeyed with yourself for the longest. So cultivating that relationship is not only gonna, you know, help you feel that grace and that love, it is necessary to get from A to B, to move out of these defense mechanisms, to be able to move beyond the shadow side. You have to build that sense of safety. Yeah, amazingly shared. I wonder, kind of sat where you're sat now, as you know, with all of the work that you've done, what would you offer 25-year-old Candice? How would you reach her?
Oh, Lord Almighty. That's a tough question, because I honestly don't know that I could. I was, especially at 25, I was in the throes of unaware sexual two-ness. I was just trying to find my happiness in anybody around me. And maybe that would be it. I don't know that she would listen. I really don't. But I would tell her that she's worthy. Okay, dude. Sorry. She's worthy of being loved. Like, she's worthy of the undying, passionate, deep love that she's looking for. She's worthy of it. But being worthy of it should tell her, maybe not should, because I don't like that word, but could tell her that being worthy of it means she shouldn't have to work so hard for it. And if you are working so hard for it, that it's not the kind of love that you deserve.
Yeah, so key. How do we get that into the minds of every 25-year-old out there?
Right? Yeah. Truly. I if I had an Enneagram in my 20s, I think it would have been a complete game changer. I think it would have supported my relationship with my family. Like, it would have done everything.
Yeah, totally. I am very lucky that I discovered it when I was 23. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, don't get me wrong. We fluffed around for a good number of years there. Yeah, totally. But no, I totally see your point there. Yeah. So this has been really, really real, really raw. You've been an exquisite soul child, type 4, because you've been so authentic and shared so deeply with us, Candice. I am so grateful for that. So grateful. And so therefore we can see Enneagram work can be very confronting. Yeah. I think Enneagram is some of the most confronting personal work that you can do. I personally haven't found anything as confronting as, will call you out as much as the Enneagram does. But it does also bring that freedom. It brings a level of freedom that, again, I think you would struggle to find with a Myers-Briggs or a Strength Finders or a DISC.
100%.
Yeah. So what would you say to someone who's on the edge of like real, true self-awareness, but is fearful, scared, coming up with excuses to take that next step?
I love this question. So I want this person, if this is you, I want you to picture a month from now. Just put yourself in the space of a month from now and imagine you have a depth of understanding of yourself to the point that you're less reactive. How relieving would that be? Like even less reactive with yourself. Just imagine the relief you could feel if you've, instead of worrying about it for the next month, started uncovering. Like I said in the last one, like it's going to suck either way. Like it is. Again, the realness, but it's just so relieving to know that you're wired a certain way. It is, you said freeing. It's totally freeing. We're wired a certain way. Other people's are wired a certain way. There's no like standard that we need to hit of how we're wired and how we're supposed to deal with certain things. None of that is real. We're all just varying people. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's just Enneagram's your check engine light. And if you want to look at it, you can. If you don't, you don't have to. But, it's worth it. You are worth it. You deserve to have a life where you feel safe within yourself. You deserve to have a life where you feel comfortable expressing yourself. You deserve to have a life where you feel free to be yourself.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That was gorgeous, Candice. What an amazing place to come into land for today. Yes, and more yes. I completely agree. What a beautiful, beautiful, encouraging kind of mindset to have. I know that's going to be just so helpful. So I so appreciate you coming on and sharing with us in such a deep way. How can people find you? How can people follow up with you if they want to learn more about your work and what you do? If I can just say, Candice, her Instagram is poppin', okay? You're going to want to go follow her on Instagram. That is linked in the show notes. But is there anything else, Candice, that I can share or direct people to?
The podcast, I suppose. Yeah. Why Am I Like This is over on Spotify, and it's more of this. And Evie was on last week, I think, something like that. Well, the episode came out last week, and we do the same thing. We talk about real life issues from an Enneagram perspective. Mm-hmm. So it's not just firing information at you, which again, like Evie does, I love how she approaches all of this. It's real life. So come check it out there. Come listen to me be brutally honest about what a twat I was. And maybe it will help you feel better about you being that way sometimes too. Because we all are. We just all are. Sometimes.
Amazing. Yeah, brilliant. I will link our episode because it's a good one as well. You asked the good questions. I was raw and real with you over on your podcast, so I'll link that as well. Thank you so much for your time today, Candice. I so appreciate your insight, and we'll have to have you back on to do a full kind of subtypes review because you truly are the queen of it.
I'm going to wear that crown with pride.
You should. You should. You're the best. Thank you so much for today. And thank you for everyone who is listening. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And we will see you next Monday morning at 9 a.m. Take good care.
If Guided the podcast resonated with you, why not share it on your socials or send it to your friends? And if you have a spare moment, I would love it if you could leave me a review. These small gestures are free and they're invaluable in helping me amplify the reach of Guided the podcast, connecting us with more empowered women who are eager to increase their well-being. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay in the loop with our latest episodes. By subscribing, you'll stay connected and receive a weekly dose of inspiration directly to your inbox. Thank you for being a part of our community, for showing up, and for your commitment to personal growth and self-discovery. Until next time, take care of yourself, stay curious, and keep exploring the depths of your own inner wisdom.